All right, so I want to show you the workflow for the assignment that I have given y'all about color. Please disregard that I'm importing directly from the SD card. I'm just doing this so I can be quick here. I don't need to back these images up onto my hard drive. Oh, screen sharing has stopped. Let's just share the whole thing. All right, we're recording. All right, you guys can see I'm in hunker down mode. So, all right, are we recording? Looks like it. So here's my sample of what I've asked you to do, to have a gray card in the shot with something that is lit by daylight. So since it's raining, I'm using the window here. And I had to boost my ISO pretty high, but none of that really matters for this. What I'm wanting y'all to do is start a new collection. Abby, don't interrupt me right now, hon. Yeah, she's signing to me to eat some cereal. Okay, so I wanted you to, the easiest way to start a collection, in my opinion, is to go ahead and select everything you want in it. So you know you want everything. So I hit Command A to select all. And then I'm going to go ahead and create the collection. I told you what to name it. I can't remember off the top of my head. We'll just white balance color test. Make sure you have include selected photos and then create. Now, I'm just going to skip. It says make new virtual copies, but now we talked a little bit about what that means, but you don't need to do that. Just create it. So now they're here. But the reason you don't click virtual copy there is because it wasn't going to give you two images. I want you to have two images. So I did want you to go ahead and practice going through one by one. There might be a shortcut to do them all at once, but I don't know it. Right click and create a virtual copy of each image so that you have two sitting side by side. I'm asking you to do this because I want you to practice creating virtual copies. And since this is a small number of images, no one should really have more than 5 images because we were shooting our different white balances and your cameras really shouldn't have too many. Now, some of them, mine had a lot. And I skipped some of the more complicated ones. Like mine can set the Kelvin, which I think Brittany's is going to be able to do as well. All right, we're going to pause for all of those reasons, and I'll be right back. So I was on image 11 now, and virtual copy. It's kind of visually easy to see. Remember, you've got that flip up corner that distinguishes. All right, so now I have a virtual copy of each one. And the reason I want to do that is because I want you to see them side by side as you make these changes. So we're not going to adjust the original. We're only going to go into develop mode, and then we're going to use this gray card that we photographed in each image. Now, I started off raw, and then I realized that's insane. And I turned it to JPEG. So I'm just going to grab my dropper. I'm in develop mode, and I'm in my basic settings at the top. I have the slider bars selected. I'm going to grab that dropper. Once I click on it, it becomes active, and it wants to roll around with me. When I click on the gray card, it's automatically going to correct to the correct color. So now the second setting is going to be my daylight balance. Now, interestingly, you cannot see white balance in metadata. So as you change your white balance, actually, it doesn't track it, and it's kind of weird. So my third one is my daylight. So it should look pretty accurate here, but we're just still going to go through, and we're going to grab that dropper, and on the second image of every one, we're going to select. And you can see it brought some warmth in. So daylight does have a bit of warmth. So you notice how that went blue. So I'm going to select the virtual copy. There it goes again. So what you're seeing is that everyone I'm correcting now are looking identical. So if I shot at this white balance, like, yikes, that must have been my incandescent or tungsten. Now it got a little crazy. So I can tell I don't like where it went. So I can sort of click around and you notice my focus is off. So now I can sort of pick around on there until I get it where I feel like it's looking more neutral. So if you noticed when I was in class, I said when you're really far off, it can be harder to bring it back. So that was a good example of struggling to bring it back. This one's looking pretty accurate, so I bet we're not going to see much of a change when we click on that gray card. Now this is going to be a tough one because this was my like shady, or I wish I could tell you. This must have been tungsten actually, and the super orange one was shade. All right, so let's click on that, get onto the virtual copy. And now this is gonna be tricky. The camera's gonna have a rough time. I did a good job getting us mostly there. It seems like even my exposure got a little bit overexposed on this one. I have gray curtains. I'm tempted to click on them, but all right, let's get back to the gray card. See how once when you're really far off, it's having a harder time. There's something else I wanted to point out to y'all, which is that we really, it's okay to change white balance before you adjust color. But the reason that the exposure and the contrast come first is because you actually don't want to do too many color changes until you get your density right. So somehow I got overexposed, even though I didn't change my settings much. So you want to correct your density before you go in and start really correcting all this wacky color. But anyways, like we talked about, this one was shot at the wrong white balance. I'm going to go back to as shot and get that exposure back to 0. So now we have it as shot. Camera's having a hard time, even with a gray card. So now that was pretty close. I have some overexposure, which is a little weird because nothing changed. Maybe a cloud moved. And as you'll see, that one's a little bit tougher to bring back. Now I would have to go in, but I'm getting fairly accurate skin tone matching the others. But when my white balance was incorrect on the blue, that is a tough one to correct. And last but not least, this was one of the daylight settings or auto white balance maybe. So it's looking pretty accurate. So now when we go back into the grid view, what you're going to see is that all the ones you corrected with the gray card brought us back to the most neutral color. And even when we were in auto white balance in the beginning, so to go into our compare view, we have on the left, you can see now that this is the auto white balance in the camera, and then this is where I corrected it. So even with auto white balance, my gray card corrected image looks more accurate. So the purpose of this was just to illustrate that using a gray card or a white card is always the way to get you closest to the most accurate color. Setting your correct white balance is the first start, but I went to the extreme here so you can see the difference. You can stop here if you know how to export all of these in the print module as your PDF. But for those who want to see it again, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I have all my images. If I select them all, they're all going to pop up in whatever layout I have selected. So I'm going to drop down to the template browser, and I'm just going to select any of the contact sheets you can try. So if they all fit, like this is 4x5, meaning that I have 4 rows and 5 columns, or 4 columns and 5 rows. So this, if they all fit, you can choose that. I also want you to make sure that you have the image name in there. So over here on the right, some people, when you submitted your contact sheets to me, somehow you had deselected the name, the file name, and that makes it so that I actually cannot identify like an image. Like if I say to you, oh, I love that you selected, 6810 as your favorite, but I really think you might want to look at 6811 again. So over here on the right, where I'm hovering the mouse, where you have photo info file name, make sure that is selected. Here you saw it vanish. That doesn't work. I cannot identify these images because what if I can't, what am I going to say? The little doll standing in the window, they're too similar. So the photo file name is really important for me when I'm asking for a contact sheet so that if I do need to reference an image in feedback, I'm able to identify the image by its file name. So from here, remember you click printer, not print. A dialog box pops up and then you choose to save as PDF. From here, choose where you want to save it. You can throw it on the desktop if you're on a Mac, rename it according to what I've asked, and then go ahead and save it and upload it to the LMS. Please reach out with any questions. Thanks. Bye.